Hey everybody, welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast that starts on New Game Plus. It's your boy Matt, aka Matt Fun Dude, and I'm with my co-host as always.
Yes, I'm James, aka James 04E. That was a really funny intro to me. It
Thank
applies
you.
to my week a little.
I'm glad I tickled you with that intro. I can assume already with the Steam announcement page of Revenant from the Ashes, or
Yep.
sorry, Remnant uh of From the Ashes 2 just dropped, so I assume that is your week.
Yes, pretty much. So yeah. I guess just getting into my week. So I think it was like it was on Wednesday. I saw the Remnant 2 Twitter account tweeted like, "Hey, if you get the Ultimate Edition, you can play tomorrow." And I'm like, "What? I can play tomorrow?" And I was like, "Well, if I get it on Tuesday." Or if I just start playing on Tuesday, I know I'm gonna literally like do nothing productive. So I made the executive adult decision and got the Ultimate Edition, which is it was actually I was very surprised how cheap it was. So the base game is $50 and the Ultimate Edition is $70. And let me pull up the page. I think we actually talked about this. Uh, for the Ultimate Edition, you got 4 days early access. Actually, it said 3 days, but it was technically four because you were allowed to play at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday. You got the survival pack, which is basically just some basic consumable items and stuff like that to start you out, and some like XP boosts. Uh, you get three, so you get all three DLC packs, which is interesting because Remnant One, I think it only had two DLCs, and only one of them was like a new world. The other one was like a survival mode, which was a sort of roguelike thing. And you also get three sets from the previous game. The three sets are okay. Armor isn't too big of a deal in the game. It's mostly cosmetic, but some are just like there's all the basic like archetypes. Like you have light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, and like ultra heavy armor.
Mhm.
But outside of that, there's no real special bonuses or anything like that for the armor. So if you want to have a heavy armor set, you won't notice much of a difference between that and the other heavy armor sets.
Yeah, I think we did briefly mention this on another podcast with the different specials and whatnot.
Hmm.
You got the main selling point being you could play a day early, which is kind of like becoming more popular as an idea. I've seen it. I mean, I saw it occasionally in games. I think before this, but
Hmm.
I think nowadays you keep seeing that model of like play the beta or like play a week early,
Yeah.
and I don't know how I feel about buying a game for $90 to play it, early.
Yeah. So in the case of Remnant, I actually liked it because a few reasons. First of all, they gave like reviewers and stuff. They gave them super early copies, like 2 weeks early or something. And so when I first signed on to Remnant, when I first started up the game, immediately I noticed, wow, I'm getting like 60 FPS and I have like a 3060. What's going on? And so 2 days later, I think on like Saturday, made an announcement saying like, yeah, the performance isn't where we want it to be. We're working on it. We're targeting some like very specific bugs because there's like a bug where when you come out of like the map or the character menu, your game will like hitch for a second.
Hmm.
And so they fixed that with a patch yesterday. And they also said, yeah, we made this game with DLSS in mind. I think it's just upscaling, or I don't know what it's generally called. DLSS is like the NVIDIA version, but it was cool because it was like really transparent and it allowed everybody to have a better experience and know that before the game actually came out. Because if it was like that on launch day, I think it would have been a little bit worse for them.
Hmm. There's nothing worse than turning on a video game. This is kind of more of a PC issue, but like
Hmm.
turning a game on and then the game just like does not run good at all.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I guess I'll like that happened to me with The Witcher 3. And that
Hmm.
game is optimized, and I don't know about the launch. I think maybe it had a kind of a rough launch. I don't remember. Um, but I remember turning the game on and being like, "Oh, I can't run this game." Turning it off and then just waiting until I got a new graphics card to play it. I did that with Red Dead 2 recently too, and I'm like, "You know what? I'll just wait.
Yeah.
I'll just wait."
Yeah. But yeah, for the actual game itself, I think it's been great. I'm let me check my hours. I'm like 15 hours in as
Damn,
far as like
okay.
actual game time. Like I've left the game open sometimes, and I also obviously spend a lot of time tabbed out because if for people that don't know much about Remnant, the game is pretty almost completely procedurally generated.
Hmm.
And I've seen like 15 different versions of a single area. Like
Oh,
when you're
wow.
playing the game, it'll say in like the top right, it'll say the area name, and then it'll say like the version, which is like a number. And I've seen like up to number 15. And then you can also roll completely different areas from other people in your game, and also like different orders. Like the first, there is no like introductory level necessarily. Like there's a tutorial, but then you go to your first real area. There's no like universal introductory area. What actually happens is it gives you a random world out of the first four, I think, because I think the final world is like definitively like the final world will always be the last one you get.
Mhm.
And then there's also a scripted event where after the first world you go to a predetermined second world because the story needs that to happen. But and what I also think is really cool is, so with the different areas you can roll in each world, the story of the world will actually progress differently. Um, like there's one world where there's a king and there's an imposter king, and it's like when you switch between day and night, they switch places, and there's this whole narrative around them. And in one world, you get to like interact with them, in another you don't, and you kind of just hear about them through word of mouth. And some people, there's this one. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's this one. It's not a boss fight. It's like an event I just thought was hilarious because this guy was so confused because the two kings have very similar names, and he was just sitting here like I can't tell which one it was. And there's this whole thing about how both kings think the other is the fake,
Hmm.
and so it's very confusing, but it's funny. Um,
A little bit of a, Mahler twins from Invisible TM situation going on with
yeah,
clones, if you're
yeah,
if you're hip to that show/comic series.
yeah, but yeah, like their names, it's literally just one letter is changed,
Oh.
and or I guess I can talk about the names. So they're Fei Rin and Fei Lin,
Mhm.
and I think I just thought it was so funny because they're also like it. The way you pronounce the letters isn't too different. So like when the characters say like what their name is, they really emphasize the different letter. And you can like ask them, wait, are you Phelan or Feyrin? And they'll get like really pissed.
This really says a lot about society and,
Yeah,
you know, the duality of man.
indeed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Um, so for someone who so I just downloaded the first game, by the way, because I own it.
Hmm.
I have not played it, but now seems like the time to play, if I'm going
Definitely.
to, wanna play something.
Yeah, you don't
Uh
need to play the first game to play the second one.
mhm,
I will say that I do think the game is generally an upgrade. The only thing I think is like not necessarily worse, but it's different is that in these games your level is determined by your trait points basically.
mhm.
And traits are like just they're basically just stats. Like you can get yourself some extra health, lifesteal. It's like in Souls games kind of, except the stat they get a little more creative with the stats generally. Uh, but in Remnant 2, there's actually a cap on how many trait points you can get,
Hmm.
and you don't start off with access to all of the traits. Like you have to find the traits like in the world, and you can respec, but it is not disappointing. But I guess some people were a little upset about it because they would have thought it would either be uncapped or at least the cap would be a little higher because it's like the cap is like 60, and to max out a singular trait you need 10 points. I think there's like 20 traits or something.
Yeah, I can see how that
Yeah,
could be kind of annoying.
yeah. So that is one thing
Um,
people did prefer about the first game, but besides that, I think the second one's a lot better. It's the I just think it's a much more complete experience as far as RPG elements, roguelike elements, and like Souls like elements go. Like it goes much farther with the genres and things like that.
it seems to me, from an outsider's perspective, having not played either game yet. It almost, but it seems to me kind of like a Neo situation, like that game. Do you know Neo? Like it's a
Yeah.
kind of Souls ish, where there's the first game and the second game. Again, they don't really. You don't have to play the first game to play the second game, but
Hmm.
it seems like the second game took everything from the first game and kind of refined it more and
Yeah.
added things a lot. To the game, so you could start there. But I do think, like, I guess, what's your opinion? Is the first game still worth playing?
I think it's still worth playing. It's still a really good game.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think this game just has so much better build diversity with the archetype system. Like it's literally there's a class system where there wasn't one before. And that's the only
Hmm.
way to describe it. And you can also like you can have two classes at once. So there's like I think currently people know of 10 classes. There's four starting classes, five if you pre-ordered, and then the rest you have to like find in the world or like do different things for. And yeah, you can merge them in any way, shape, or form that you want. So yeah, there's currently like I don't know 10 classes combinations. I don't know 100. I don't know. I'm bad with numbers. 100 combinations. Yeah, and
Endless,
yeah,
endless
endless,
100
infinite,
combinations.
infinity at least 12. There's at least 12 combinations. That's a big number.
It's like one of those things where it's like, oh wow, that you can have a million games in one. This game, it's a million in one games, and then you start kind of like duplicating after the first 10, but still, build diversity. We like
Yeah,
to see it.
yeah, but I think the classes have been they're super diverse so far. Uh, some of them are really crazy. Like you can do some just really weird things. Like there's one class called the Invader where he like spawns decoys. He can take himself back in time. He benefits from like enemies not being aggroed on him. He can teleport. It's lots of bizarre stuff.
Hmm. Um, so with this game, with the launch, is this I can't, my Steam page for some reason isn't, oh, now it loaded. Uh, is it a $70 game? What is the price point on this game? I can't, it's like still like, oh, I'm okay, Steam was being annoying. Okay, we
Oh.
talked about the editions.
Hmm.
Um, but oh, I didn't realize that standard is it's a $50 game standard.
Yeah, yeah, it's
In
fifty
terms
dollars
of
by
you can
default.
play the game.
Yeah,
Are there any microtransactions or anything in the game or cosmetics like that? Or
no,
battle
not that.
passes?
No, not that I know of. That's actually funny because it that just reminded me. Apparently, there was a big controversy with the Diablo 4 Battle Pass, and
Mhm.
it's Remnant related because lots of people playing Remnant are like on a Diablo 4 break, and apparently the Battle Pass it doesn't give you enough like premium currency to even buy a single item.
Oof, you can't, and can you not buy the next battle pass either? Like,
I
so
don't
you,
I don't think so. So I think the currency is platinum. I think the battle pass costs 1,000 and I
yep.
heard that the battle pass gives you 666.
Wow, very epic and thematic and not at all cheapscaping
Man.
your already annoying concept.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Oh
rough.
man. Battle pass, I think a good battle pass. There is such, all right. The mechanic of a battle pass is actually like a good idea in some way.
Mhm.
If it's done in a way where it's like actually pro consumer, and I would say the only way you can do that is make it so that you can either buy or have a free battle pass.
Mhm.
If you're gonna make it purchasable and it's pro consumer, you make it so it's like, okay, every battle pass is available at any time. You just
Yeah.
choose which one you want to buy. It removes the FOMO design of like, oh no, I'm not gonna level up and I'm gonna miss my battle pass. And then you get the rewards, and it kind of, I enjoy the pacing of, oh, I'll play another match because I want to level up the battle pass. I don't
Mhm.
enjoy the, oh, in 2 days if I don't finish this, I'll never get the end reward. Like that is scummy and bad. And if you are gonna do a battle pass that's like subscription based and be scummy anyway, at least give you enough premium currency to buy the next battle pass.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
you
I
know
don't know.
what's funny about the being able to not having a time limit on the battle passes Halo
Mhm.
Infinite actually did that, and everybody hates that game.
Yeah, but they don't hate I
It's
feel like
really
they don't
sad.
hate that battle pass system.
Yeah, they don't. It's just kind of sad because it's like it was actually a really good idea, but
Mhm.
it's just overshadowed by the other things that people don't like about the game.
Yeah. Um, do we okay, so do you have any more extended thoughts on Remnants from the Ashes 2 before I kind of divert into something? 'Cause I kinda wanna segue off of this battle pass conversation.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about Remnant 2. Yeah, I think another thing I really like about this game is I think the boss design is a lot better. There are still some God, there are some hellish ones. There's this one puzzle boss that's oh my god. I was up until 4 a.m. because I did not want to go to bed without I didn't want to have to wake up and think about the fact that I still have to do this boss. Because
Oh god.
so it's a puzzle boss. Um I, I'm gonna be like really low detail here because some people think it's really, really cool. So I don't want to
Okay.
spoil it for those people that potentially think that is the most awesome boss ever. And I'm not saying that it isn't awesome. I'm saying that personally, me with not the best, not the best puzzle solving skills was I was in agony. And the problem is, it's a puzzle, and if you quote unquote fail, and by fail I mean get crushed by a box, you
Okay.
instantly die, and you have to
Sounds fun.
restart.
Classic instant die.
Yes. And I think the funniest thing is the class I chose, the Challenger, which is like the close range tank class. His his main passive is that when you die, you instantly revive with like a percentage of your health. It depends on the percentage depends on what your level is. But you basically instantly revive, but it doesn't work for instant kill mechanics.
Oh my god.
So the first time I died, I was like, "Oh, okay, I almost finished the boss. I'll just revive it." And then I saw that you are dead, and I was getting like, "What?"
This is sounding like a getting patched boss.
No,
Like
no, probably not. It's
I
very much intended for it to be like that. It's just
I yeah. I
it,
feel like
it
not for
doesn't.
difficulty, but just for people complaining.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, lots of the reviewers actually loved that boss. So like,
Okay.
I actually don't think they're gonna change it too much. And to be honest, there's not too much they could really change.
But
Uh,
what about Reddit TM?
oh god, Reddit is split. It's either people complaining. So what you'll see is a post about people complaining about it, and then somebody in the comments will say that boss is easy. Do you know that you can do this? And it's it's like, do you know that you can do this extremely obvious mechanic that everybody probably used?
The get good versus the people being like this is annoying. There's always a balance
Not
somewhere.
not even necessarily get good. It's like the this is easy people, like
Yeah.
I'm really good at puzzles people.
Now, when you said puzzle boss fight, I just it conjured in my mind the Final Fantasy 14 raid, which I may be making up, but I think I'm not. Where there is a raid in which you must solve equations during the raid as part of like
Oh
some of the
god,
raid phases,
I think I've actually
also
heard
known
of that.
as "I will fail."
I think I've
Uh,
actually heard of that.
so I'm thinking like, is it like on that level of like nonsense, or is it just a
No,
little more thinking than just gun shoot?
it's a little more thinking. I think the main issue is it uses mechanics that the game otherwise doesn't teach you about.
Hmm.
And but yeah, outside of that, boss fights are fantastic. And in Remnant 1, I think the main problem with the bosses was they all relied on ads, which for those of you that don't know the term, it's basically minions that a boss will spawn. And that is kind of necessary in shooter games that have bosses because you need to spawn them for ammo. Uh, but they're a lot less common, a lot less oppressive. Most of them are just kind of brainless and are just there so you can kill them for ammo. Some bosses will even just spawn ammo after you do a bit of damage to them. And I'm finding that like the bosses have more frequently have phases now, and they're much more reminiscent of a Dark Souls boss fight, which I think is a really good direction to go into. And also the designs for some of the bosses are just fantastic. Like in the trailer, there's like a red cloaked guy. I think this is the reveal trailer. Yeah, the reveal trailer. There was like a red cloaked guy with a flaming sword. That was one of my favorite boss fights in the game. On top of the fact that it just looks really cool. He's also a really cool character if you actually choose to interact with him instead of just immediately fighting him because it's actually a very common thing in this game where lots of the bosses are like kings and stuff like that, and royalty. And it's like you'll talk to them and they'll be like, "Yeah, pay tribute," and you can just say no and instantly fight them.
Weird.
Uh, yeah, but boss is really cool. The the enemies that you fight throughout levels, they're a little bit harder. Definitely quite a bit harder than Remnant One. I think I was playing on veteran difficulty, which is basically like the hard one. And I actually had a friend who accidentally started on nightmare difficulty, which is like the literally says in the difficulty, yeah, you probably shouldn't do this for your first playthrough. This is basically New Game Plus. And he started on it without knowing, and he's like, James, I really don't like this game. It like I'm just getting one shotted by everything. I understand it's a Souls like this is a bit much. And I joined his world and I'm getting one shotted too. I'm like, oh well, you're not what is this difficulty? And he's like, nightmare. I'm like, oh.
Do your characters persist like stat wise through different difficulties, or is it you have to start Nightmare and start from level one and you just have to deal with it?
They so how it works, I I think I don't think you can change the difficulty on the fly of a world. Um,
Hmm.
but worlds and characters are separate. So what happens is since this is a roguelike and or since it has roguelike elements and the levels aren't always the same, you can roll like a level that you don't want or something like that. And so you can re-roll your campaign, which would completely restart the campaign. Or if you're in adventure mode where you just pick a planet that you want to like explore or that you want to roll, you can restart the adventure mode. And when you do that, you can also change the difficulty, but you keep your character.
Hmm.
And when you join an other player's world, I actually don't think this game has the like individual player scaling that like Borderlands and stuff would have. I think how it works is it goes with the higher level player, but if the higher level player is more than 3 levels above the other player, it'll just go to 3 levels higher than the lowest.
Oh, that's kind of weird. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense to have to balance, for co-op play,
Yeah.
but it is kind of interesting system.
Mhm.
How is the online co-op stuff? Did you delve into that?
I'm going to tonight. From what I've heard, it's fine on PC. There was
Hmm.
a bug on PS5 where people couldn't join their friends, which was kind of annoying them, but I believe that's patched up now.
That's good. It was just probably some like I don't know. Any game that is on launch have I guess one of the benefits of having those like play early things is these always kind of online and or online experienced games
Yeah.
not horribly failing at launch because everyone wants to play.
Yeah. I
Uh
think another major benefit for this game is the wiki is actually like the wiki was pretty much done yesterday,
oh.
which was really nice cuz so since this game, I keep bringing it up procedurally generated levels, varying levels. You can know immediately if you are not in the world that has an item that you want, and just restart because of the wiki, which
Huh.
is so unbelievably nice. Like I could not imagine playing this game without a wiki. And to be fair, if like the internet let's pretend the internet doesn't exist for a second, I actually think this would be such an interesting game. Like this would be people would be discovering stuff on their own all the time. It'd be really cool. However, I want to optimize my build.
The age old debacle. I feel that especially with like Elden Ring when I
Yeah.
played that game at launch and the wiki was like not done yet and I was like, "But I want the one specific item."
Yeah, I think the worst part
Yeah.
is there are some cases where you can very easily miss out on stuff. Like for example, there was one event that I actually activated by accident, and events are a one-time thing. You cannot redo them. And I found out uh I was if I don't finish the event, it's just over. Like it's the event was basically a room that was flooding slowly and I had to collect as many items as I could and then get to the top. And I spent too much time collecting items because I was reading the items because I initially didn't think that the room was gonna flood
Reading
again.
the lore.
Like you like drain the water and then it lets you go in, and I didn't think the room was gonna flood again. So I'm sitting there reading the item, and then I'm like, why am I hearing running water? And I look down, and I'm in this isolated platform just surrounded by water. Everything I can jump to is like underwater now, and I'm just dead.
Running water is nature's boss music.
Yeah, actually.
That would actually kind of drive me crazy a little bit. Is it items? Are you locked out of unique items that you can only get from these events, or is it just, oh, I can't do the event again, I missed out on whatever, some randomly generated loot?
Yeah, it is unique items. So
Oh, that would
the
drive me
good thing is
crazy.
that if you want to go back and do it, you can go into adventure mode and load up a new world.
Hmm.
So like technically you can redo them, but it's not within your campaign. So like
Okay,
you
well, at
you
least
have to
there's an
kind of go back and
option.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't deal if it was just one of those things where it's like, there are certain games where you can just miss things, and it's like, oh, you just missed a health upgrade, like that's just gone
yeah,
forever. Like you can't. It's like I can't. I
yeah.
can't
But
deal with that.
additionally, I guess the thing about that is you also wouldn't know that you should just go and restart the world to like pass the event. If like you didn't have the wiki, because I wouldn't know that there's a specific reward at the end of the event or something like that. So yeah, wikis are very cool. YouTube videos are also pretty cool. There's this one archetype that you actually have to go into like poison gas to get, and you won't see it until you've literally gone into the poison gas already. And when you complete the game, you get an archetype that basically tells you where items are. And the reason people discovered it in the first place is because they have that archetype. But some people don't want to complete the game for it because that was my first area, and I'm like, well, I want this thing now because I want to level up this archetype early and get all the perks for it. And so I saw a YouTube video, and they were like, "Yeah, if you see this rock formation on the edge of the map, you're in the right area. Just run into the mist."
Oh my
And I
god.
did that, and I found it. I was like, "Damn! Literally never would have figured this out otherwise."
So it does sound like, although it's random, it's like kind of the pseudo random. Like there's still, it's not like you're completely have no idea where certain things are. You can kind
Yeah.
of go in knowing to the best of your ability what you can do, and like for a build or something like that.
So
So
yeah,
that's
there
that's kind
are
of nice.
there are certain I guess pieces of terrain that will always be there if you have a like certain events in your world or something like that. Because obviously they
Hmm.
need the
Canon events.
canon events. They need the terrain for the event to happen.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, like the stuff outside of it won't necessarily be the same, which may make it harder to find it. But normally, if you see some certain landmarks, you'll know.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to checking out Remnant 1 at the moment, just because I
Hmm.
own it, I might as well play it,
Yeah.
and then maybe giving this a check. Um, but from the way you describe it, it sounds fun, and there's no major issues, it seems like, or like any weird bad sequel nonsense, you know?
Yeah. No, I haven't had any huge, crazy, wacky issues yet. Like, actually, I
Mhm.
I did have one bug where it was just like I couldn't shoot enemies, and they also couldn't detect me, and I also couldn't interact with anybody. It was just weird. I just had to restart.
Oh,
But
maybe just like a server thing or like an internet thing.
yeah, no clue. It was just fixed by restarting the game though. It's your typical open world game stuff.
Yeah.
It's not free of bugs, but I haven't seen many, like, if any, game breaking ones.
Mhm. Well, speaking of wacky, weird things in video games, uh, I don't know if you saw this at all, and then I guess I'll get into my week a little bit too, but I kind of wanted to bring this up because I got a YouTube short video about Call of Duty Warzone,
Hmm.
and some of the content they're adding to that game and some of the content that exists in that game and the wackyification of Call of Duty games
Oh
has, I
yeah.
think, reached a new peak. uh, have you seen the Boys crossover with Call of Duty?
Yes, I have actually.
With Homelander from The Boys lasering, you can play as Homelander with a gun, voiced by the actual actor of Homelander, and you run around and you laser people with your eyes as a
Hmm.
finisher, and you're just running around doing crazy stuff, and it's like, this is just so far and weird. But I guess it is Warzone, which is like their battle royale game.
Yeah.
But that got me down the rabbit hole of getting some of these videos where There's like a laser gun in that game. There's like a gun that like shoots like lasers,
Hmm.
or it's just like, oh wait, no, it was the Crash Bandicoot crossover
Oh
Wampa
my
fruit
god.
the Wampa fruit like grenade or something.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and it is the Wampa fruit grenade where you should look this up, or I'll send it here. I'll send you the short. Maybe I'm getting baited because this almost feels fake. Maybe this
Wampa
is,
fruit grenade.
yeah. Maybe like, am I getting baited here actually? Because I'm looking at
Let me see.
the short. There's like Crash Bandicoot guns, and I feel like I might be getting. I feel like I'm getting baited. I don't know.
New
Um,
Tracer Pack Crash Bandicoot bundle with.
but yeah, you throw the grenade and it blows people up, and they turn into Wumpa fruit, and it just spins around, and it just is so strange.
Oh, it's like a skin.
No, but you throw it, and then when it blows up people, it turns them into a spinning fruit, like
Yeah.
3D model from Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking at it now. What the hell?
It's so bizarre. Like, it's to the point where some of these additions are so distracting. I would be so distracted by anything. Like, how do you even play? It's like playing like Left 4 Dead 2 with like meme mods.
Yeah. You know what's
Um,
actually crazy about that though? When you said that Warzone was like getting crazy or getting out of hand. Um, that reminded me. It's been over a year now. A while ago, they did a Godzilla crossover for
mhm.
like Godzilla versus Kong, and you could actually play as Godzilla. I'm pretty sure, and just laser the shit out of like entire buildings
Like, as a special mode, or is just
as a
like,
special mode. Yeah,
oh, okay. That's a little bit different, at least. I mean, it's still
yeah,
bad, but like, it's just so weird.
but yeah. I mean,
I
Call of Duty definitely has a history with crossovers. 'Cause I remember
Yeah, but they
back in Call of
feel
Duty
weird.
Ghosts. Yeah, back in Call of Duty Ghosts, I think there was like a Predator mode and a Predator like map.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Um, I think they've done like some other horror movie crossovers like Freddy Krueger and stuff like that.
I feel like at least those kinda can fit, maybe getting a
Hmm.
little wackier, but just seeing, like, full-blown The Boys skins running around, it's just weird. It's just very, very, like, Fortnite-y, I don't know. This whole, like, the multiverse/crossover slash crossover trend right now is just so crazy with everything.
Yeah.
Um, it's, like, too much. Uh, but yeah, that was just a weird clip I saw. For video games, I have been playing a little bit of Final Fantasy 14. I kind of haven't been able to play it as much as I was going to
Hmm.
because I had no internet for a little bit. But I've been leveling my Dragoon up for a bit, the DPS.
Hmm.
I haven't seen you on the game, James. I haven't caught you on the 14 yet with
Yeah,
your free
I
yeah.
downloaded it, but then Remnant 2 came out.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I think it was actually the day that I downloaded it. I heard the news about it being available a day earlier than I expected. So I'm like, well, I can't just not play.
Okay, when you get Remnant out of your system, I
Yeah,
would like to play a little FF14.
yeah, definitely.
Um, but I don't have too much to really talk about with FF14. It's still good. I actually dusted off the old 3DS XL
Ooh.
uh to play some WarioWare Gold, which is the WarioWare collection that has like the Twisted games, the Touched, and the GBA game like kind of combined into one game.
Hmm.
And man, that game is really good. And I was kind of like on it when it came out, but because I'm like, oh, I'll just play all the original games. Why would I play this, you know, compilation game? Because the originals have their own charm.
Yeah.
But no, Gold's really growing on me. Like, it's the first game in the WarioWare series that had like full voice acting,
Hmm.
which was off-putting at first, but it actually is kind of charming and kind of funny at times. Um, Wario takes a rage nap. at one point.
A rage nap.
He's mad. He's like, "I'm Wario." It is all right. So Charles Martinet does kind of just be like, "I'm Wario." He just kind of says. It feels to me, he's like just saying like, "I'm Wario." Wow. Oh, what are you doing? Like he's just like narrating like what he was happening on screen. Um, but there's a scene where he's just like, "I am so angry." Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "I'm going to take a nap," and it just immediately falls asleep. I'm like, that's actually kind of funny. It's like Zoomer humor from they predicted it.
I literally don't know what to do with all this pent up aggression, so I'm gonna sleep.
just go to sleep. Wario's just like, I'm sure they've quit by now. And he's like, wait, you're still playing the game? That makes
Yeah.
me mad. It's like, what? Um, yeah, no, it's really fun. WarioWare is always a good time. Uh, but outside of that, like gaming, oh, you know what? I've been, yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much the two games that I was, really, playing. I'm like looking at my list of games here.
Hmm.
Uh, Yeah, I've been busy IRL. That's kind of why I haven't really been able to do anything. Hopefully I will be doing a new stream soon of something. I don't know what, but yeah, this has been the busy time for for sure. I'm just checking my YouTube channel, and the title of our previous podcast, "The Borderlands 3 of Podcasts,"
Oh
is
my
actually
god.
doing decently. So I'm like, I don't know why that shouldn't. If it's the Borderlands 3 of Podcasts, that should be the least. Uh, I guess besides pre-sequel, that should be the least played entry.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I don't know. That was my week. It was pretty quick week in terms of gaming stuff. Um,
Not a very gamer week.
No, I mean, I literally when I was playing games, it was just Final Fantasy 14, and I'm leveling up like an alternate class, so there isn't like too much to say because I haven't progressed in the story at all. I've
Hmm.
just been like leveling up in that game, and then it is what it is. I think if you check it out at some point, I'll have more to say about it. Um, but yeah, I think maybe we could do a more question heavy end of the podcast if you're down.
Sure, a more lore heavy episode.
Yeah, a big pod energy. Um, let's get right into the questions in 1 second.
All right, sure.
All right, we're back. There was a debacle, but now we're on to questions.
I heckin' love questions.
James, hit me with a fresh question while I look for cues.
All right. What-
James,
Big multiplayer.
James, you can't get here.
Hmm. I'm thinking.
James, I was getting shoes. You're supposed to fill. You're
I'm
supposed
hitting.
to
I'm
fill for
hitting a
time.
thinker. I'm hitting a
How
hard
is a viewer?
thinker.
How is a listener supposed to listen to a podcast when there's 2 seconds of dead air?
Uh, they should be in deep thought with me. It's
Okay,
thinking time.
you know what? Ask away, or I'm asking.
I think you should ask.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna now. I gotta curate from the list. Oh, I guess we could talk about games with unique difficulty settings and or like difficulty settings that like change up the gameplay. I can think of a couple examples if you're having difficulty thinking.
Difficulty. Yeah. Yeah. Unique difficulty settings.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but like I'm thinking like Doom, how they have
Yeah, I was
the
thinking that
weird,
too. Like,
yeah,
like it's not like a gameplay thing, but it's funny that you just say like, okay, you can play on baby difficulty, or you can play on alpha giga chad difficulty. Choice is
yeah.
yours.
Oh, like
However,
uh, there was also a game that had kid mode in it. What did Sonic have? What was the game that had kid mode in it?
I don't remember.
Uh, oh my god, was it like? It's so funny because it's like difficulties. Oh my god, I can't remember the game. It's like difficulties like normal, hard. It's like kid mode. It's just like it's completely different difficulty for kids. Um,
And yeah, that is
I
kind of crazy.
yeah, I
I'm.
would think what's up? You got one?
I was just thinking like I'm certain there's like some shooter or something where the easiest difficulty they just censor everything. So it's like, yeah, you're like shooting Like it's like what is it? The like what the pyro sees in TF2 or something, where it's just like a bunch of flowers and stuffed animals instead of shooting people.
Well, that's not necessarily a difficulty. That's more of like a gory gore filter or whatever. Um, I'm
I
thinking of like Kingdom Hearts, which is more recently. Those games
mhm,
have critical mode, which is the hardest difficulty. But the reason one would actually subject themselves to that mode is because, at least in the case of Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically, it basically turns it into glass cannon mode where you do more damage but take more damage, and you start with new ability,
mhm,
like start with different abilities. So I enjoy games that have a hard difficulty mode when there's actually like a fun reason, like fun challenge of having a harder difficulty. Skyrim
yeah,
being one of the worst, like any Elder Scrolls game being one of the worst examples of just like the difficulty is just like enemy take more hit, do more damage. Terrible. Just play on adept or whatever. It doesn't even matter. Like
yeah,
Elder Scrolls games have the worst difficulties of all time.
yeah. It's actually not. People do a lot less with their difficulty settings nowadays. It's kind of sad.
I think you need a, depending on the game, if it's like a narrative game, do like a tell me a story. Well, actually, I think the best difficulties, Persona 4 had probably the best difficulty system where you could literally change every aspect of the game's difficulty on the fly. Like you
Hmm.
could change it so that you take less damage, you do double damage, you do whatever. You could modify it to your liking. And
Yeah,
Terraria journey modes like that too.
yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy actually did that too, where they had all sorts of like sliders. Like there's when you're going through the wheel of all the characters' abilities and stuff, time will slow down, and you can adjust like how much that would slow down, so you're forced to make faster decisions. You can adjust like the rewards you get from doing certain moves and things like that. Like yeah, you could individually tune everything. Actually, it was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's ideal where as like some games have like I also kind of appreciate when a game has like a tell me a story mode, like journalist mode
Hmm.
or stuff for people
Journalist
that
mode.
yeah, they just want to like whatever, get through the narrative. And like a game like a God of War, like I get some people just want to see the story, they don't actually care about the game. But that game has good gameplay too. So I played on like a harder difficulty because it
Hmm.
was fun to play. So but I think games need like baby mode, like easy as in kind of like a tell me a story mode, maybe a standard mode and then a hard mode. I think if you have too many difficulties, there are certain games that are like easy, like tell me a story, easy, normal, a little bit hard, super nightmare, ultimate, mega nightmare. You know what I mean? It kind of
Yeah.
it almost ends up being like, why would I not just play on either normal or the hardest? It's like, why would I play on this weird in between difficulty?
Yeah.
Uh, Kingdom Hearts kind of has that issue where there's proud mode and there's critical mode, and proud mode's actually technically harder in Kingdom Hearts 2 because you don't get that double damage. Like you don't get the benefits of critical mode. So it's
Hmm.
just like numbers go up on enemies. It's just like bad. Like there's no fun of it. There's no unique element to it either.
Yeah. When you
I
said
think yeah.
back when you said journalist mode, it reminded me of do you remember that Doom Eternal uh like gameplay with the journalist where you couldn't get past that lava section, and he
Oh,
left such a horrible review, I think, actually, and the community like jumped him. I think it was insane. But man,
well,
that was a time.
games journalism reviews have always had kind of a bit of a bro moment uh in terms of just like I get it to a point where not all games are for all people, and if you're playing a really hard game and you're a journalist who has like a couple hours to play a game and kind of review it, yeah, the reviews are probably going to not be as favorable, I guess.
Hmm.
But then again, it's just like you listen to I would never really listen to like an outlet, like I would compare my reviews across different people. Plus, you would want to find someone that you can trust, like a content creator that you like, who likes that type of game, to give you a review, rather than Johnny Journalist who's like can't get past the Cuphead tutorial.
Hmm.
But what do you think about? the Dark Souls having an easy mode? Where do you stand in that debate?
I don't really think it's that necessary because I think like
Hmm.
I think part of the Dark Souls experience is the fact that there isn't a difficulty slider.
Hmm.
So I think for them to add one would probably take away from the experience.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, Dark Souls does have a difficulty slider in the terms of how leveled up are you? What like
Hmm.
you can grind it out to be stronger. Like especially Elden Ring has never been more accessible to just like,
Yeah.
oh, I couldn't be the boss. Well, I'll come back later. Do something else.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm all for accessibility in gaming though, for sure. Like you should have options for people and make it as accessible as possible. But there are
Yeah.
certain games like that where it's like I don't know about I don't know about the resource in terms of like designing around that. How many people would actually like? What is the overlap of people who like Souls games but don't like the difficulty of Souls games? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
I guess there are some people. Well, I was thinking like there are some people who are like, oh, they want to do the story, but like genuinely, who actually plays any Souls game for the story? Like, actually, like, I mean, some people like the lore, but like
Yeah.
the people who are playing Tell Me a Story mode, who cares about the story in Elden Ring, or whatever?
Yeah. The actual story is usually I feel like there's very few people who are in it for the actual story that aren't lore nerds at the same time.
Yeah, and the people who are reading all the lore are willing to put a lot of hours in the game, play a lot of it,
Yeah.
and they're gonna be playing the game and enjoying it.
Hmm.
Um, that being said, like, yeah, there's also different games for different people too. Like, you have different difficulties. But yeah, that was the difficulty question. Have you found a question? Oh, by the way, if you have a question, you can email us at hyep podcast@gmail.com. That is the
Yeah.
hyep podcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
I probably should have mentioned that earlier before we got into questions.
All right, yeah, I do have one. Hi, I grew up playing a lot of fighting games. Are there any fighting games from your childhood that you think deserve more recognition?
Are you gonna? I feel like you're gonna talk about Injustice.
No, I there was another question that we had where I talked about injustice. But
Hmm.
for this one, I'm gonna talk about Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi, the entire series. Because I remember
Video essay.
those games were such bullshit. It was literally, I think they made like Super Saiyan 4 Goku and stuff. They made it ridiculously overpowered, like borderline unplayable
Are those
to
like
beat.
3D arena, like
Yeah,
Naruto Shippuden style fighters?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, like it was insane.
So
So
so in a good way?
insane in a good way. 'Cause it's just ridiculously fun.
Mhm.
Because it was the kind of thing that you play with like three other friends, and you'd all just be beating the shit out of each other, like sitting on the couch, and no, and nobody would even know why they're winning or losing.
Yeah, those are the best ways to play that kind of a fighting game. Like I've said this many times on the podcast, but my favorite memories of a fighting game is the learning stage where everyone's bad
Hmm.
and just cool things happen.
Yeah, um, but I think one of the most memorable things about that game was the beam struggles. So how it
Mhm.
worked is if you both did like an energy attack at each other, you would engage in a beam struggle, and the way that you would win or lose the the way that you would win or lose the beam struggle would be you'd have to rotate your analog sticks, and whoever rotated faster wins.
That sounds like a great for big analog trying to sell new controllers when they shatter.
Yeah, it was insane. It would never work nowadays, honestly, because
Uh
like if you tried to do that with a Nintendo Switch, that shit would
oh, the
explode.
Joy-Con drift. Yeah, no.
Oh my god, they would fall off.
Um I you jogged my memory. This is not even a good fighting game, but it's an obscure one that just like for some reason jogged in my mind. But there was a game called Ragdoll Kung Fu for PS3, which I believe is I think it's a Media Molecule thing. Am I? It's on. Wait, it's on Steam too. All right, go on Steam and look up Ragdoll Kung. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, it is. It is. It's on Steam. I don't know if this is the right. It's from
Ragdoll.
2005. I
What's it
don't know
called?
if this is.
Ragdoll Kung Fu.
Yeah, Ragdoll Kung Fu. I don't
Oh God,
think. I don't. It's $1. I
I got
don't think
jump
this is
scared.
even. Yeah, I don't even think this is the version that I played. Uh. Oh God. Now we have to get Ragdoll Kung Fu. It was a game. I don't know what. Maybe it was like Fat Princess or something. Was a tie-in. It was tied into some other game on PS3. I think it had a weird connection with Little Big Planet or something. Uh,
Oh my
yeah, it had skins in Little Big Planet. But it was odd. But it was this game where you're kind of like a ragdoll and you control individual limbs, and I think it was like a Smash-ish type game, and it
hmm
was not good. And
Yeah,
it was
it doesn't
also
look very good.
problematic. And there's some interesting, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not great, but it just that jogged in my head um of the weird era of like PS3 digital only games like Ragdoll Kung Fu. There was a game called Pain. Like it was an acronym called Pain.
Pain.
Uh yeah, PAIN, and it was a game where you had a giant slingshot and you would slingshot a character and like basically just hit things and break stuff, and it was actually a lot of fun. And there was a bunch of DLC that added like celebrities. It had like Flava Flav in it. It was weird.
Oh God.
It was a
So
weird
I'm still
game.
looking at Ragdoll Kung Fu. Couple observations. There's a demo
Yep.
in case you don't want to spend the $1. And lots of these reviews, like lots of the positive ones, a bunch of them are people with like 2 hours on the game. And there's one guy
Mhm.
with like 85 hours.
The
It's
Ragdoll
out of
Kung Fu
nowhere.
veteran. Uh, yeah, I don't. It's crazy. Like that game, Nobby Nobby Boy, which was the Katamari people, I believe. Just these weird like games on PS3. I know you're probably more familiar with the Xbox Live Arcade era. It was the same
Yeah.
time for like PS3. I was a PS3 guy, so I was playing those games. Um,
hmm
but that was a weird time for gaming. But I'm nostalgic for a lot of those, just like I don't know, smaller indie. But before indie was so accessible, it was kind of a novelty to even have a game. Now it's so accessible. Like there's 1,000 games on Steam a day being uploaded. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I miss the inaccessible indie game grime.
Oh man. Yeah, that was a weird. What was even the question on that? I kind of like, oh, the fighting games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Fighting games that deserve more recognition because
Yeah, Ragdoll Kung Fu. That fits the
Ragdoll
prompt.
Kung Fu.
Um. What games do you think had a really good tutorial that introduced players to mechanics? Now, I would think. Oh, you know what? I just remembered one. Um. Do you have one? Because I just remembered one.
I think I have one, but you can go first. Mine probably isn't great.
Do you remember? Did you ever play Spider-Man 2 on PS 2?
Spider-Man 2. I don't think I did. I've heard of it though.
Okay, so I'm fact checking this right now to make sure this is the one I'm thinking. Okay, so Spider-Man 2, the game, Bruce Campbell is like a narrator, which is hilarious, and
hmm
there is a tutorial in that game. I'm trying to fact check to make sure this is the right uh game. So there's a tutorial mission. It might be the wrong game, but there's a Spider-Man game where there's a tutorial mission that teaches you how to play, and there's like a narration, and you're in like this skyline, and the narrator basically just like makes fun of you and stuff, and just it's like this kind of unique mission that
hmm
teaches you how to play. Um, Now that was kind of a lot of build up for that. You'll have to like watch the video online. It's
Yeah.
pretty charming. But I do think the best tutorials are not like a section, but they're in game they show you throughout the gameplay. But then I completely changed my point of view and remembered Wario Land 4 has a really cool tutorial level that I like a lot.
Hmm.
where it has little cool graphics of how you play the game, and it's really charming. And there's a boss fight. It's good. That's a really
Oh,
good one. But what is yours?
unironically, Elden Ring.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that I think that people always talk about how like the Souls games are so inaccessible, but it's like it's literally just like a I think it was a pit that you could drop down into, and it
yep.
actually took you through it like every single mechanic. Like, yeah, this is how you swing your sword. This is how you dodge, and like here's a character that'll force you to do exactly that and only that.
And the best part about that tutorial is I completely missed it the first time I played the game. It's just like, oh, it's just complete. I do appreciate how you can skip it.
Hmm.
Actually, all the Souls games have a pretty good tutorial, like intro of how to play.
Yeah.
Uh, one is good with their. I like how one has. You have to. It seems like the hardest thing in the world when you first play one to beat the Asylum Demon, and then on
Hmm.
subsequent playthroughs, you're like, oh my god, this is so easy. Uh, Dark Souls 3 is like honestly kind of crazy that you have to beat that first boss in Dark Souls 3. Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. I thought that was really weird, actually,
That's like a
because
genuinely kind of a daunting task for a new player.
it was like a mental thing too. Because I walked up to him like, oh yeah, this is a boss I'm supposed to die to,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's like I died and I'm just like, here we go. How are they gonna bring me back in a crazy way this time? I'm like, wait, I have to do it again.
Yeah, that I feel like a lot of people might have bounced off there. And the
Yeah.
sad thing is, right? Like I think Souls are good because you can grind and like Elden Ring the best one because you can go actually have meaningful grinding instead of just killing the same enemies. You can go do other things and come back to bosses. Um, but like 3, that's the first thing you encounter. You just have to get
Yeah.
good. And I can see why people would bounce off of it.
They really
Um,
said you've played two of these games plus Bloodborne. Get good.
yeah, I mean, if you can beat Bloodborne, you can play Dark Souls 3. Bloodborne. As someone who's played like all the Souls games and stuff, going into Bloodborne, that game is like I think Bloodborne probably is the hardest of the series.
Yeah, it's either Bloodborne or Sekiro. It's the hardest, I think.
Well, Sekiro, if you like learn how to parry and like learn the
Yeah.
boss like pattern, if you can just like with no upgrades, whatever, just kind of just dominate from the
Yeah.
beginning of the game to the end. That's more about learning, but I think like from a pure just like visceral difficulty, Bloodborne has a lot of like oof moments.
Bloodborne asks the simple question of, do you have hands?
Yeah. Bloodborne asks the question of how much sanity will you lose grinding for bullets and health items? Oh yeah,
Oh
remember
my
health items that
god.
regenerate? Let's
Oh
grind for those.
no. Oh, that
Actually
was
kind of a
so
bad
bad.
mechanic.
I remember like there would be some times where I'm like, okay, I think I can maybe beat this boss, but I don't want to have to use another blood vial here. And then the boss would be
Yeah.
alive on 1 HP and I'd have like 10 blood vials and be like, damn it.
Try playing PvP in that game. Every PvP
Yeah.
encounter like yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Uh
PvP was hellish.
that
Like the netcode was,
mechanic
man.
actually annoying. Like there's a difference between difficulty and then being actually annoying.
Yeah.
And that being that, I think the later games did a better job of all right, we'll have infinitely refilling health, but maybe we'll also have a consumable healing item.
Hmm.
Dark Souls 2 was crazy because you could have infinite amounts of them basically, so you could just be stupid. There's a
Yeah.
balance between having a couple things and not. I don't know.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think I have to go pick up food. It's probably sitting in the cold, so
Damn.
we'll call this a pod. I've been Matt, aka Matt Fondude, and who have you been?
I've been James, aka James 04E.
All right, go play your Ash game. Go play the
Stay
newfangled Ash
stay
simulator.
hungry.
Peace out.